On Second Thought, episode 362, powered by Hook'em.com. Cedric Golden here with the Duck. Kirk Bohls of the Houston Chronicle. Still hate saying it, but they're feeding your family now. Duck, we've landed some big fish in the past.
We have.
I feel like Ahab today because I don't think Ahab landed that big fish. We got Jody Conradt on the podcast, and she's already in Tampa. The Texas Longhorns are playing South Carolina in a Final Four semifinal, the first Final Four since 2003 against UConn. And the Longhorn legend, she's adjusting her phone. Jody is
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah,
Okay.
it's perfect. It's
Okay.
fine.
All right.
She's adjusting her phone. First time on the podcast, hopefully not the last. How are you today, Jody?
I am great. Just counting the hours until we can see this team in action again.
Well, how much fun has this ride been?
Oh, it's been so much fun. This is a great group of young women and Vic's staff, and they're just so much fun. I've never seen a group prepare any more than this group has. So I know when they take the court, they're going to know everything there is to know about the teams they play. And the progress that this team's made over the season and where they're playing now at a very high level has really been fun to follow.
You look at it, and Kirk, I asked her before we got on the call. I go, well, you can just slide in there next to Vic on that bench. I mean, we all hands on deck in this one. But she says she's got too much on her plate, and she's going to be seated behind that bench with AD, um, fellow Longhorn legend Chris Plonsky. Uh, Congrats to CP on the Texas Sports Hall of Fame induction.
Absolutely.
I know a couple of people who vote on that committee. Kirk, are you the chairman of the committee now?
I am. And nobody's
And we
more
still got
worthy
her
than,
in? How did that happen?
well, we voted for her. We pushed her.
Of
And she's
course, we
in there with,
voted for
she's in there with
CP.
Jody, the
Yeah,
legend.
just go ahead, Kirk. Go ahead.
Just getting right into it, South Carolina, what kind of challenge does that present, having already played them, three times? And how do you see this challenge, the facing the Horns?
I don't think I ever remember teams playing four times in the same season. Three's pretty common because you play a home and away and then you play in a conference tournament, but four times is probably unprecedented. So there are not going to be any secrets. These teams have some similarities. I think you would describe as saying two teams that try to muck it up. They want you to play really badly because of their really aggressive defense. So it's going to be interesting to see who can stay composed, who can get enough looks at the basket to win the game. And of course, I think Texas has all the things they need, and I'm picking them to win. But it's going to be fun and certainly a competitive game.
I love it. And it's weird that that other game might be 85-84.
Right.
Nice.
There's a
UConn,
contrast for
yeah,
sure.
UCLA, and this game's going might be first to 50. Yeah, because they
I
both
like
scored in
that.
the
I like
50s. And
Yeah.
so what a great contrast. I gotta ask you, I know when Vic Schaefer took the job 5 years ago, uh they thought it very important, CDC and the guys, that you and Plonsky were consulted and asked, to vet Vic Schaefer. And it was very important to Vic Schaefer that you be a part of this. How gratifying is that for you being the architect, the real architect of the modern era of UT women's basketball, to have Vic Schaefer have such respect for you?
Well, it goes both ways. I've known Vic all the way back to when he was first a head coach at Sam Houston State. We have that in our backgrounds and our history as well. So I've known him for a really long time. He's always been an advocate and an ambassador for women's sports. And the way he carries himself, the way he produces and develops teams, I think is a source of pride for everyone who follows this sport and loves the sport. He served his time as an assistant at A&M. He's done everything he could do to prepare himself for this moment. And I think he's proven over the course of his short tenure at Texas that he's ready for this challenge. And I'm so happy that he's had the success that he has.
Well, he has a great appreciation for defense, as did you. When you look at their defense and break it down, Jody, what makes it so special? And they're holding well, they held Illinois to what 47, I think, in the second round game, and held Tennessee to 9 points in the fourth quarter. What separates their defense from others, you think, Jody?
I think it's just the focus and intensity and buying in. I think this team understands that their calling card is defense. And Vic and I've talked about it. Starts with Roy Harmon. She's tenacious, she's on the ball. And when she sets the tone, then everyone else falls right in line with that. And I've seen some really good defense by this team all through the season, but I hadn't seen anything like those first few minutes against TCU. I've never seen defense make you want to set up your offense at midcourt.
Wow.
Well, to begin with, 5 second counts and then 10-second counts.
Exactly.
And then when you finally got to a point where you could start your offense, you're at the midcourt and you can't even make the pass inside because it's too long to throw it to a 6-7 post player.
Let
Yeah,
me
they just
tell you, we were we were in the Birmingham airport, and there's this nice older lady sitting next to me. She had a TCU ball cap on, and I go, "So you guys were at the game last night?" And she goes, "Yes." She goes, "I'm Haley Van Lit's grandmother." And so we had a great visit with her parents and her grandmother. And what I wanted to ask her grandmother was, what did you think about your granddaughter being in a straitjacket for 40 minutes?
Yeah,
Because Rory
exactly.
Harmon, like Vic said, he knew the flavor of chewing gum that Haley was doing. He was just so tenacious. Is there anyone that you coached that reminds that Rory Harmon brings to mind with that kind of defensive attitude?
Well, I think I was fortunate enough to have a point guard that was very similar to Rory in terms of attitude and commitment to defense. Cammie Etheridge set the tone for that national championship team
Wow.
in the very same way. And she was not only a leader by example, but she was pretty vocal. I said she was in a bad mood from the time the game started until it ended. And she expected the players who were playing with her to follow her lead and just take it personally if people scored.
Well, that'd be a war between Rory and Cammy. And I'm gonna put you on the spot, Jody. How much would your 86 perfect team 34 and 0 beat Vic's team this year?
Well, it's really fortunate. That's how I characterize teams early on, like that team and teams today. I think those teams were just as talented, and we had players who could play then and could play now. They're just more players now, more talent across the board. But if you look at that particular team, the 86 team, um, there were 7 or 8 players and you could only put 5 on the floor at one time. And those other 3 or 4 that were on the bench could have started for anybody in the country. It was a team that was extremely balanced. And if you want to go individually, you look at Andrea Lloyd, you look at Clarissa Davis, Annette Smith, Fran Harris, Beverly Williams. I mean, any of
Jeepers.
those players could have played at the level of Madison Booker or other players on each of these really talented teams. But today, this team, I think, has um, stepped up in a way that is really unusual in terms of playing their best basketball at the right time.
Well,
But
Kirk,
y'all would win.
I'm just going to have to say it here. No disrespect, Jody, but I would pick Vic's team to beat the 86 team because those girls are all like coming up on 60 years old now. So, I would I would have to pick the youngster.
That's right. Well, I wouldn't want to challenge them because, there's a saying, the older you get, the better you were.
There you
And that's
go.
exactly how that group
I
would take
love it.
that kind of challenge.
Can you
I'm
believe next year it will have been 40 years since
That's
that
unbelievable to
championship?
me.
That's crazy. That
yeah.
is
It is
crazy.
crazy. When I see those numbers, it's been 22 years since we were in the Final Four, and that was a good team too. That was a Stacy Stevens, Heather Shriver, Jamie Carey
Hi,
team that
hi,
could have
Dillard.
competed with anybody. But it is so hard to get to the Final Four, and it's so dependent on the path that you take, how you're seated, who you play, where you play, all of those factors, and make it really, really tough. So when you get here, there should be a real celebration. There should be real recognition for what a team has done.
I mean,
I'm gonna tell
you
you.
talked about that 80. Go ahead.
See, when I do like that, that means I got to follow up. You got
Oh,
to,
sorry.
you
I
surpass.
thought he was calling for a commercial.
I
Okay.
didn't know. I didn't know
That
what
will
he
mean
was
we
doing.
have advertisers. So no.
All right,
No,
answer
I
your
was going
question.
to,
What do you got?
yeah, I was going to say 2003, you guys were about to win a national championship, and Diana Taurasi figured out that she was Diana Taurasi. I mean, that was her first great moment, I thought, as a player. And the one thing I remember most is going into that presser and Gino Ariema, knowing that he's got what Pat Summitt coming up in the finals, goes, "Oh, we're so confident because we just beat the best team here." And so, yeah, if not for Taurasi, I mean, there's two championships instead of one, I think.
Oh, there's no question, but I'd go back to, I'm going to blame it on the officials. Uh,
I love it.
we're down to the wire and we're about to pull ahead of in that game, and they call an offensive foul on Stacy Stevens in post
Horrible.
play.
It was horrible.
It was a terrible call, and that turned the whole game. So there are always those moments, and you look at the other teams that I had the privilege of coaching. After we win the national championship in 1986, I remember Billy Moore, who was the former coach at UCLA, said to me after that game, we might as well just mail the trophy to Texas for the next 3 years because we had been very dominant in that championship. So I'm feeling like, okay, we have a chance to really do something special. Before the next season even gets underway, Clarissa Davis tears her ACL. I felt those same kinds of feelings for Juju Watkins when I saw her go down. I knew it was an ACL. I've
Me
seen
too.
20 of those
Mhm.
on teams I've coached, and from their the pain they're in and how those things happen that it's going to be a long time before those players get back. So there were so many things that play into not only recruiting and developing teams, but the luck of the draw, the things that happen with injuries, and how the bracket uh, comes to be. All of those kinds of things make a difference. So we just need to celebrate this team and be so happy because this is a really special group of young women. I always tell Vic, if they can play for you and survive, then they're going to be prepared for whatever is ahead. And I think this team is an example of that.
Well, they remind me a little bit of the 86 team, like you mentioned, with the depth that you had and they had. I mean, Sid, I don't even know if you were born in 86, but that team had Clarissa Davis coming off the bench and scored
Right.
25 in the championship game, and it beat Southern Cal and Cheryl Miller and just shut down Cheryl. I don't think she scored in the second half for USC,
She
did she?
ended up fouling out, but it was, but I yet think the only contrast between, and Vic and I've talked about this, is I wanted to play defense so I could have another offensive possession and score. I don't think he cares whether they score or not. He just wants to play defense. So there was an ulterior motive for our playing aggressive and pressing defense, so we can get it and get down to the other end and have an opportunity to run up the score.
And you got a nemesis back then, thinking of South Carolina, you had Western Kentucky, which of course had knocked y'all out,
Right.
at the Irwin Center. Then you beat them in the Final Four to get to USC. So it's just, and that may be South Carolina for Vic. He's got to get past.
Absolutely. Well, I think teams that really achieve their highest level go through some adversity. And it may be in the form of injuries, it might be in the form of the luck of the draw, or it could be any number of factors. But that particular team, yeah, going to Western Kentucky and playing them on their home floor with the pressure of trying to get back to Austin to play in the Irwin
Right.
Center in the Final
Right.
Four and losing 90 to 92 on a last second shot, that was pretty hard to take. Not that I can remember all of it. Uh,
Just every play.
Kind of foggy on the memories. Yeah.
right. But,
It happened yesterday. That's how it sounds.
I don't remember much about wins. It's always the losing that stays in your memory. And just coming back to Austin with that team and sitting in the Irwin Center and watching somebody else cut down the nets on your home floor. Uh,
Oh,
that was the motivation. I had the easiest coaching job ever that next year because they were so motivated. And, a perfect season's about as good as you can get. Um,
no, it is.
Can't beat that.
so that all played into it. And I don't think about that championship, and I doubt that that team does either without thinking about what they went through to get there. So sometimes the adversity and the disappointment and the failure makes the winning and the success even better. And I think that's probably what this team is thinking about as well, because again, the last 2 or 3 years, they've been really, really close to getting here, and now they're here.
All about the journey.
Hmm.
That's exactly right.
Last one for me. What a wonderful coaching matchup between Vic Schaefer and Don Staley, who has turned South Carolina into a perennial powerhouse. What do you know from about her, and what do you think about the job she's done building that program?
I know about her all the way back to her high school career. She's from Philadelphia. And I had a good coaching friend. His name is Jim Foster, and I heard from him this week. He coached at Ohio State. He coached at Vanderbilt. He was a coaching friend, and he was very successful in his own right. And he reached out to me and he said, "There's a young woman in Philadelphia that would fit perfectly into your style of play. Her name is Dawn Staley." And it didn't go anywhere because she was pretty much already committed to go to Virginia. And I followed her career, obviously, thinking about my conversation with Jim and how it would have really been great to have her as the Cami Etheridge or the
Exactly.
Roy Harmon, because she
Mhm.
was that same kind of player, a
Wow.
point guard that controlled what was happening on both ends of the floor. So I followed her career, all even back to high school and then through her college career. And then, of course, the legendary career she had leading the Olympic team. So she's been successful and been a winner at every level, and she is a credit to the sport. And all of us who love the sport appreciate what Dawn has brought and how committed she's been. And to think about her growing up in Philadelphia, ending up in the deep South, and filling a gym and sold out season tickets and all the things that she's done to really promote the sport is really, really special.
Well, she's done a terrific job, and she's probably going to end up on that Mount Rushmore right alongside you and
Well,
Pat Summit and Gino, because
I would be honored.
you are are such credit to your professions and just do such a wonderful job. And it's just so exciting, isn't it, to see where women's basketball is today when, back in the old days when you had three on either side of the court,
Yeah.
and all of that. It's just it blows your mind a little bit, doesn't it, Jody?
I say to people all the time, isn't it amazing that the rest of the world has figured out about women's basketball? I mean, in Austin, Texas, we were having big crowds and selling out and hosting all kinds of number one and number two teams. And it was sort of in a bubble. And
Really
now
was.
that bubble has burst in the best way possible. And yes, everybody now is following women's basketball, and they're enjoying the same things that the people in Austin have always appreciated about the sport. It's team oriented, it's hard work, it's people coming together to support each other, and the joy that comes, and sometimes the disappointment from following a team from afar.
Well, hopefully another banner goes up soon.
We
I'll
were
be waiting for that. That would be really, really special. The University of Texas should be, and I think is a power in a lot of sports, and women's basketball was one of the first. And to maintain that and to keep it going is the goal for all of us.
Well, we are so excited to be headed to Tampa. She's already there, guys. And he rolled on the Learjet with CP.
Oh, yeah, right.
Kirk and I are taking
Right.
Kirk taking a covered wagon. We're going to leave right after this, and it's going to like a 64-hour trip, but we will get there before tip off. We promise, and we look
All
forward to
right.
seeing
I'll
you
look
there.
for you.
Thank you, Jody. Appreciate your
Thank
time.
y'all. Y'all travel safe. Hook 'em.
Take care. Bye bye.